very keen environmentalist, and my aim is to make Glasgow Uni a greener place by taking various actions.
That's the best we can do, I think.
Yes, thank you. How's it going? Is Kirsty here?
Oh, do you know what? Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I've done any of it.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. There's one over there as well. Don't keep talking that one.
Chris, yeah, that's well. Great stuff. We get video going as well.
Yeah, ready? What is video going? Oh no, we didn't get the video going. So what we're going to do is, it plays out here, so we just put the microphone to here. And it doesn't really work.
I don't know where she is.
Okay, right, I'll sit here and she can sit there.
This is your pre-heckling warning. Heckling's about to begin. Pre-heckling warning. About to begin. Good luck.
Natasha, come to me.
It's really to give Natasha.
That sounds really nice.
Thanks, man. I wanted to be looking at
Natasha, carry on.
Well, who's tweeting first?
Huh? Yeah, that would be great actually.
Who's doing the first?
Natasha, carry on.
We're waiting for you, mate. Who's doing the first tweet? Hannah, who's doing the first tweet?
Natasha.
Right, Natasha.
Me.
Jump on the tweet.
Say welcome to Hustings.
I know what to say.
Hello everyone, welcome to Hustings, yay, spring elections. I'm Kate Powell, President of the SRC, and I will be chairing tonight's Hustings. Don't worry about it, it's all quite casual. Everyone will be invited to come up, every candidate, for example, not everyone, but everyone will be invited to speak for 2 minutes about why they're running for election, and then we'll have the opportunity to open up to the floor for questions. Relax, it's fine. There is, as much as there is a live stream, so your family can tune in from wherever they are, or your friends who can't make it today, because I'm sure everyone would love to see you say what you want. The hashtag for tonight is GUSSC elections.
Yes.
Please live tweet. The funnier the better. No, I'm kidding. But feel free also to put some questions in, or encourage some of your friends or other people, other students to submit their questions. You can only ask a question tonight if you're a student. I assume most of you are students tonight. We'll start with the school representatives, then on to the undergraduate conveners, postgraduate conveners, and then the welfare officers. As soon as your 2 minutes are up, I'll give you a tap, and then if you speak for a little bit longer, I'll probably shout at you. So try and keep to 2 minutes. And yeah, so shall we invite our first person up tonight? So the first person tonight is Leo Krowski, School of Culture and Creative Arts. So yeah, go for it. You've got 2 minutes.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Leo. I don't know if most of you have read my manifesto. I guess not. But I'm running for the School of Culture and Creative Arts, which encompasses, on the undergraduate level, history of art, music, theatre studies, and film and TV. And right now, I study theater and politics as my joint honors, and I'm a history of art student as well as my third subject, and I'm a class rep for history of art. So why I am running for this position is because as class rep for history of art, I've been attending SSLC meetings and trying to fight for certain issues, especially lecture recording, and it's not always been easy. And I am running for this position because I want to be able to affect more meaningful change in a way, and also more quickly and more efficiently make things happen that I think are necessary for the School of Culture and Creative Arts. So in my manifesto, I say that I will keep fighting for lecture recording in all level 1 and level 2 lectures, and also as much as possible in junior and senior honors. As well, one thing that has come up is that in honors levels, students in theater and film and TV have certain projects that they need to, that they are assessed on, including performances, and some of them have had to spend a significant amount of their own money to be able to fulfill the artistic vision. And so I think that there should be at least some kind of funds that are reimbursable by the university for the students, so that they don't have the limits of their, financial abilities on what they want to create and what they're assessed on. And then besides that, I also want to have more, as I wrote it down, kind of trickling down of information from class reps from upper levels to lower levels. Anyway, yeah. Questions?
Thank you. Well done. Does anyone have any questions for Leo?
Come on, make it interesting. We're running unopposed.
Scott?
Some questions.
Sorry, wait a second for the microphone.
Hi Leo, this is out of interest. Could you elaborate on that last point you were just trying to make very quickly?
So basically, I found that coming as a first-year student, some of the subjects, there was kind of very little help from the departments or the subjects as to how to do well in a way. And I think that there should be definitely tips and kind of advice from students from second year, junior years and honors years that kind of come down to future students. And an example of that is sample essays from students from previous years, which I think should be made more widely accessible.
Hannah?
Hello. Obviously, like your first year at the minute, what do you think you could bring to the role that's kind of fresh, from a new perspective, perhaps?
I'm relentless.
He is relentless. He's good. Anything else?
I'm really motivated. I guess I have a lot of time.
Okay.
And I'm just, I think these are changes that are needed, and so I'm going to fight to make that happen.
Fab. Any other questions?
Anything else?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
So you're a class rep. How will you support your class reps, and what extra support would you like to see from the SRC?
How I will support my class reps is that, for example, in at least art history, where I'm a class rep, there is the minutes from past SSLC meetings aren't sent to new class reps. So basically, I ended up being at my first SSLC and having no idea of what had been discussed in previous ones, and so either rehashing things that had been said before, or not really knowing what had already been established as arguments. So I think that the reports from each SSLC should be sent as early as possible to all the class reps, but also that there should be more meetings between class reps of different levels to see what has been addressed already and what needs to be addressed, and which are the best arguments, in a way, to argue for things to be changed. And as to how the SRC I can support that, I had support from Hannah, for example, in providing me with data as to why lecture recording does not affect attendance that much. And I thought that was really helpful in the SSLC meeting. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leo. Next up, we have School of Humanities representative Hannah Lysons.
Hi, so I'm Hannah. I'm a third-year philosophy student. I'm running for School of Humanities representative. The reason why I'm running for this position is for my past 2 years and my first and second year, I sat as class rep for 4 different subjects, including both philosophy and classical civilization, which are 2 humanities subjects, and that experience has made me want to sort of step up and take it to the next level, and I think that that's sitting as the school representative for humanities. And that's like the next logical step for me in representing students and supporting like my classmates. As the school representative, there are a couple of things. My long-term goals. I want to continue to promote the idea of lecture recording. That is something that is such a problem university-wide, but it is something that happens in humanities, but only in certain subjects, so we definitely have the recourse and the resources to do it. It just needs to be implemented throughout the whole school and not just in certain subjects like classics. I also want to formalise the coursework feedback. This is something that has personally affected me and a lot of my peers, in that you'll get one essay back and your lecturer will give you 2 sentences on why you received the grade that you received, and you'll get a different essay back and your lecturer will go into so much detail, annotating everything, telling you exactly what was right and what was wrong. And I think there needs to be a formalisation of why and how you get feedback, just to make it fairer and so that students can understand and develop their work based on that. And again, something that happens in philosophy that I want to see rolled out school-wide is peer support from honours students to pre-honours students. A lot of subjects, you come to university and you've never done them before, and you could struggle with the subject matters, and it would help to have honours students who've been through the first 2 years support the level 1 and 2 students by, in philosophy for the logic course, we host like tutorial sessions in the common room for the logic course where, I just finished my sentence, where honours students can meet with the level 1 and 2 students and teach them how to do formal logic. So I think that's something that people can benefit from school-wide.
Fab. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, questions for Hannah? Oh, come on. I know that there are some School of Humanities students in this room. Pratasha?
What do you think is the biggest biggest issue at the School of Humanities, and how do you propose to tackle it?
I think the biggest issue is the fact that coursework feedback is not formalised. I've had issues in my 3 years of doing philosophy so far, and also when I did classics, of you get one essay back and your lecturer gives you absolutely no feedback. It's one sentence that's like, oh, this was good, but you could have expanded it. And then you get another lecturer that's giving you so much detail. And I do think that that is the biggest problem, because it's so difficult to then find where your strengths and weaknesses are and improve on them. So having a formalised method of feedback is something that would benefit everybody in learning and developing their ability, no matter what subject matter it is.
Fantastic. Hannah?
So our current School of Humanities rep, Emma, has been working on online submission, and that's now been rolled out across School of Humanities. Is this something you would consider working with the college convener to, roll out school, college-wide?
Yeah, definitely. I think that that is something that has been really, really successful and really helpful, particularly for home students, that if they have a paper submission and say they don't have uni on that day or whatever, and they have to, it's all their expenses of coming into uni just to submit an assignment, and it takes time off them that they could be spending working on the assignment. So yeah, that is something that I would definitely like to see rolled out throughout the whole college.
Fantastic. Question from current humanities rep, Emma. Wait. Run, Lauren, run.
So humanities has a lot of class reps because you're covering 6 subjects, whereas other schools are covering maybe 1 or 2, which often means it's quite hard to get everyone engaged from at least, one person from every subject. So I was wondering how you would go about improving class rep engagement.
Potentially try to do it by subject instead. I don't know if this is something that's already been tried, but try to get all the class reps from history or philosophy or classics, etc. at the same time. If there was maybe the idea that you would be with people from your subject as well, that might be an incitement for like the level 1 class reps to come and see how the junior and senior honours class reps are doing it, and that would just be interesting for them as well. So maybe to work it so that the subject class reps get together at the same time and meet with them individually as subjects, because then it might also be helpful for seeing if problems are actually being solved, if level 1, level 2 reps are bringing up the same problems time and time again as well.
Fantastic. Any more questions for Hannah? Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have School of Modern Languages and Cultures representative, Paula Campbell. You can sit down, by the way, if you'd like to. Paula here? No? Okay. Moving on.
This is hard, man.
Next up, we have School of Veterinary Medicine representative, Antonia.
Hello, my name is Antonia, and I'm rerunning for the position of School of Veterinary Medicine representative. I've been in this position for the past year, and during this time I've also served as MVLS representative at the Learning and Teaching Committee. I've learned a lot about how the university is structured and the resources are available to students. I want to work to ensure that these resources are equally available to vet students who are often based on both campus, and that they actually know these resources exist. Last year, I successfully campaigned to implement vet school resources at the main university library. This year, my main focus is on the mental health problem at the vet school. The veterinary profession has the highest suicide rate compared to any other, so it's no wonder why the counseling and psychological services have one of the highest referral rates from the vet school. I want to work together with the vet school peer support, the vet school administration, and the SRC to see if we can have a member from the counseling and psychological services pay periodic visits to the vet school. This will increase mental health accessibility to vet students, and which is a cohort amongst those needing it the most. I also want to increase vet school engagement with the SRC. I hope to do this through encouraging vet societies to apply for SRC affiliation. And I also want to ensure that every single campaign that is run by the SRC is equally run at the vet school, since a lot of them don't come to this campus. And lastly, I want to meet with the freshers, the incoming freshers, during their induction period, and explain to them what the SRC is, what it does, and how it's different from GovMA, which is the Vet School Association. I'm hoping that through engagement, the vet school representation can continue with the SRC for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Well done. You might want to keep that microphone for questions. Questions for Antonia? Hannah? Oh, it's all right.
How will you work with government this year to improve the learning experience for vets?
Well, for those of you who don't know, GovMA is the Vet School Association, and I've been involved in GovMA for several years now, and I'm going to continue on as secretary this year. So I'm hoping that through the unique role I have between being SRC and being secretary, I'm going to be working with a lot of clubs and societies. So I want to use that to encourage SRC affiliation. But I also want to use it as a method of signposting, because a lot of people at the vet school don't know where to go for help at the main university. So I want to open a communication channel between the SRC and them, and just hopefully work from there.
Fab. Any more questions for Antonia? Question in the middle?
Given how stretched the mental health faculties are right now with the huge surge recently, how do you think you'll go about that and compromising?
Well, I guess I've met with peer support and I've met with the vet school administration, and we've kind of talked out what we thought would be the best step. Ideally, we would like there to be Moodle signups where I guess people could sign up to book a slot, and that way we would know exactly how big the demand is at the vet school. And then people who would have booked a slot would have been able to have so when people book a slot, a member of the psychological service could come in and just meet with them privately. Because again, a lot of these people are based at the vet campus, so they have no way of really knowing what's in the main university.
Any other questions?
I'll ask one. So obviously you were on SRC Council last year, so you've outlined your main achievements. So what are you going to prioritise this year, and how do you propose you go about it?
Well, again, like I said, I would like to work to see if we can get a member of the counseling and psychological services. But also, again, the vet school engagement is really, really poor. And I think that's because there has been, for the longest time, a lack of SRC representation there. So this year, I definitely want to engage the freshers the second they come in, so they know what it's all about. And I also want to make sure the campaigns continue running through the vet school and just make sure there's an open line of communication between both.
Any more questions? So as school rep this year, what do you think you could have done better?
I think this year, when I came into the SRC Council, I didn't quite know what I was getting myself into. I mean, there was a lot of it that I couldn't have prepared for because I didn't have a predecessor. So, I mean, I did the most research I could, and that's what I went in. So knowing what I know now, I would like to really start building up and ramping up the engagement and promoting the SRC campaigns all throughout next year, and just making sure that people know what's going on.
Thank you very much. Well done, Antonia. Next up, we have Business School Rep Elisabetta.
Hi, my name is Elisabetta. I'm a first-year student, and although the main reason why I decided to apply for the role of business school representative is because I became involved in the SRC as a class in the representation as a class rep for business and management this year. I think the main reason why I decided to run for this position is because as a fresher this year, I have this experience of being very lost in terms of who to contact within the business school staff when I face a problem, which could be an administration problem or an academic problem or whatever other type of problem. And I think that there's a lot of confusion and not enough clarity in terms of which people in the staff should be contacted. And also another issue is that there isn't enough clarity in terms of the communication of events to students, the events organized by the business school, because usually people get a lot of emails from different people within the staff, maybe on the same day of the event, and that's an issue that could be solved by making a better website page with the events published in advance. And also, as a member of the FinTech Society, I could see that societies, especially new societies, have a hard time getting support by the school compared to other well-established societies in the school. So I would work with the staff to improve that support, and also I would make sure that people, especially freshers again, know about the role of class representative, because because I think that, again, that communication of the responsibilities of class rep could be better, especially to freshers.
Thank you very much. So, questions for Elisabetta? Ricardo, Hannah, run. Question from our current Adam Smith Business School representative.
Hello. When you talk about increasing clarity for like business school staff, do you have like an example of how to maybe achieve this goal like in a practical way?
Well, for example, I don't think I couldn't find on the website a page where it says specifically within the business school what person is what and what that role means. For example, at the SSLC meetings, even for class reps, it's hard to know what person is who, especially in the first meetings. And so I think that even just having a better, more information on the website could help a lot for students to know what person to talk to.
Fab. Any more questions?
I'll throw one out there since I'm just asking everyone questions. So obviously the business school has quite an international population. Is there any way you would think about engaging with these students in particular, or is it something you've thought about?
Well, the College of Social Sciences has a very good like their team for international mobility. So I think the business school could work more with that team, which is more of like a general team for the social sciences. But I think that more initiatives, specifically for business school students, can be implemented by working with them.
Fantastic. Any more questions? Matthew, have you got a question? Oh, yes.
Okay, so my question is concerning the topic that you're basically going around all the time, communication, and concerning class reps, which is the role that you're currently in. So do you see any improvements, like any specific improvements, any ideas that you have right now that could probably improve the communication with class reps or among class reps?
So sorry, do you mean in terms of what, like to encourage people to become class reps, or you mean the communication between class reps and school rep?
Honestly, I'm asking if you have any idea for positive improvement. So go for either, which is like more convenient for you.
Well, one thing that I notice is that in terms of a very big problem is that people don't even know what a class rep does, especially in the first year. So for example, the business school has their induction day in Freshers Week for each specific subject, but nothing was said at my induction about class representative role. So even having a person talking about that at the induction could be really helpful to then encourage people to apply to become a class rep in the first year. And in terms of the communication between class reps and school reps, I think that obviously it's important to set up meetings, but also, maybe setting up more meetings with class reps could be helpful.
Any more questions? Fab. Well done, Elizabeth. Next up, we have School of Engineering representative David Dunn.
It's fine, I don't mind doing it.
Who doesn't seem to have made it tonight. So, we have School of Computing Science representative Carl Burns, Scott Wilson, and Matthew Day. Okay, that's the School of Computing swap. It's a quiet one, eh?
Absolutely.
Microphone?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Right, so my name is Matthew. I'm currently a third-year student in computer science, and that's that thing that your family thinks you can fix a computer. We probably can. We don't want to. So we do a lot more than just that. We currently have a wide range of activities. Lots of other faculties actually coming in on data science recently, when you've all had that annoying machine learning or statistics program with computers, and you've had to learn R. Right now, I don't actually have any experience with the SRC or class reps, but I have had past experience. I've done a lot in high school, and I took a break for a bit. And I was thinking of coming back in next year and forthcoming. So right now, my policies that I'm focusing on are going to be looking at IDEs and open source software, which we really need to update and modernize our systems right now. We don't really have too much that isn't from the 1990s. Along with that, the first and second year students have had a bit of a problem with communication between what they could do. We've had a lot of teething problems in the past year when we had a massive change. We had lots more new subjects. We had the choice to do different ones that in the past have been compulsory. And all this choice and all of what you could go down in the future is it's not exactly a hindrance, but it's confusion that doesn't need to be there. And apart from that, we also have we have lots of opportunities, lots of information that comes through. It's almost too much, and it needs to be centralized. So that is one last thing I'm doing. It will go, once again, all these problems are not a hindrance, but they definitely will go a long way to making the student life better.
Well done. Questions for Matthew? Scott? first, and then we'll come out to the front and at the back. Hello, who's doing the microphone? Hello,
Me.
team. Hi.
Sorry, I was tweeting.
Bet you'll have a question as well. They'll be sat there tweeting, but no. Right, first to Scott, and then...
Hello. You talk about centralizing information. Can you elaborate on what you mean by that? Because that's something I'm personally quite interested in as well.
Absolutely. So right now we have GUTS, GUTS, you know them as the Tech Society. They host a lot of stuff surrounding computer science, and they do have a page which they use for putting out occasional opportunities. Right now we also have a lot of, there's a person that wants to communicate something with the department and the student specifically in that department. But then they go through the professor that they know. We want that professor to then forward it to a central location as well as then forwarding it on, because that central location will be an easy way for any student to access exactly everything that's going on, because some people don't read their emails sometimes. Some people might not be a part of that group that posted that. And it's best to have all of it in one location. Even if it may be too much, it means that no one would miss out.
Fantastic. And then I've got a question at the front, Hannah. Where? Yeah, just go jump up.
Yeah. To just speak to this.
Yes.
Hi. Okay. Basically, I'm a first year student doing computer science as an optional degree, optional module, and I'm a beginner. And what's happened is that in this semester, we've been merged with students who have loads of experience in computer science, and there is a massive knowledge gap between us who've just started out and students who have really massive amounts of knowledge of computer science, are excelling on the course. So I just wanted to ask, what kind of extra support do you think you could work with the computer science department to give to us who are like beginners but have taken these modules and looking to continue computer science in the future, possibly?
Right, so there's 2 points to this. The first one is that there are actually people there to help you through the student learning service, which are the tutors. And they'll step out during your labs and they'll try and help you. A big problem with that is that the quality of some tutors in the past has been a bit sketchy, and it's mainly because you can just step forward and say, I want to be a tutor, but there's nothing in between you saying that and you going there. There's no test of how well would you be able to help anybody, and some people don't even know that the tutors are there and that they actually help outside of lab hours too.
Question from current computer science rep, Stephen at the back.
Sure. So you say you have no experience as a class rep. Can you give us some details on why you think you'll be the best candidate to manage them?
Absolutely. So in the past, I've had to, when I say past experience in high school, I was part of a few societies. So at one point I was a treasurer. At one point I was managing events. And a lot of this experience isn't what actually does it. It's more because I just actually want to see these changes myself. I don't want to sit there and have to deal with old software that makes me go onto my laptop, for instance. You've seen everybody in the labs. And all of these problems are just simple fixes that just need a bit of nudging. As much as everyone in the past has been nudging, we just need to continue doing it.
Question at the front. Run, Hannah, run.
Trying.
Hello. So, especially this year, I'm a second-year computer science student, and now the labs were actually graded in the first semester in Java programming. We had some trouble with different tutors having severely different marking schemes to the point where people above had to actually normalize the grades. So do you think there could be some extra guidance on how to standardize that?
This is not an area I've really looked into, but I can say that there is a lot of internal problems in the department. There's not much communication. In some cases, some lecturers don't even show up to the class rep meetings. This is all a bit of a problem, and it's something that definitely needs to be fixed. What I can say for specifically tutor problems, that does come down to the quality, but it's not just the quality. I think standardization would go a long way too.
Stephen's got another question for you.
Okay, so final question from me. if you received notice from the school that the cleaning facilities were to be removed from the common room due to a lack of cleanliness, how would you go about solving this?
Practical one.
So it would have to be a community effort. You'd have to, I know there's a lot of people that are really like using the common room. So what it would have to be is, I know that there are the lazy ones out there that actually cause that problem in the first place. So there's not really too much you can do about that, apart from scolding, which, to be frank, in the first place, we all have those messy roommates. It's not going to do anything. It'd just have to be people coming together and actually cleaning up occasionally.
I love this scenario-based question style. Ooh. Prepare, guys. Gonna get my thinking cap on. Any other questions for Matthew? Common room, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Well done. Next up, we have School of Maths and Stats Rep, Razine Rohan and Christian Leho. Yeah, go for it.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Razine. I'm from Bangladesh. So I'm a direct second-year entrant. I joined last year. So now you might be wondering why a newbie like me would want to be a School of Maths and Stats rep. I'll flesh out the reasons. You guys get to be the judge of that. So firstly, having talked to a wide number of people over the last 6 months and also closely monitoring Asif's work, I've boiled down to the following points. Shed some light on releasing pre-recorded video lectures, and that way lecturers don't have to worry about students not turning up, and we get to engage in a more intensive revision. Having been in contact with STEM students from UCL, Oxford, University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, I've realized what they're doing different, so I can use these differences and make my math and stats department even more world-class. There's always room for improvement. Collab with MaxSoc to tailor events to your demands so that, there's greater turn-up, and I'll do it through comprehensive service, of course. Hand in the request of having at least one networking session, at least once a month, all related to maths and stats, machine learning, actuary, investment banking, macro hedge funds, all that stuff, so that the UG students and PG students can have a greater idea about their careers as they finish the end of their studies. And having talked to level 3, 4, and physics students, they express concerns regarding the time and effort required in the web assignments. So to make it more rewarding, I could just, during the LTC meeting, bring that up to add more weightage. And what else? So basically try to get more, make maths more interactive by adding group study sesh at least once a week, by booking the study halls like a week in advance. And finally, handing in the request of adding video cameras and statistics lecture halls so that video lectures can also be facilitated for that. And so what makes me credible? I started my social business as a 16-year-old, worked with United Nations and Nobel laureates, all those high-profile people to, yeah, so just to increase my experience. So I'm good in project management and project initiation. So yeah, guys, throw me some questions so I can clarify your queries.
Well done. You want it now? Questions? We have one over the far side, and then we'll come into the middle. Lydia and Zoe.
Hi, my name is Irina, and I'm fourth-year statistics and economics student. And this year we had a problem in the new maths building, which was basically we had no heating for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and our school rep didn't seem to be concerned about this issue, whereas all the students were very cold and we couldn't do our assignments in the labs. And our assignments are very data intensive, so they require more computing power than usual laptops. So the option was to work in the lab, but we didn't have this opportunity. So how would you tackle this practical issue? How would you escalate issues like that?
Obviously, I'll definitely always ask around people, what are the problems they're having, so I can immediately act on it, right? So that's how you take, by taking action, bringing it out during the LTC meeting, like what you said, you weren't given attention. If it doesn't involve a life and death situation, just hit me up and I'll try to get solutions out ready, Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you. Natasha, run around this way, this way, this way. Which way? Question over here. She's going out the door. Who's got questions out there? There you go.
So, the School of Maths has had a very long running problem with tutorial attendance. It's been a problem in first-year tutorials, it's been a problem in second-year tutorials, it's been a problem in honors tutorials. So do you have any ideas on how to try and solve that?
Yeah, so I elaborate on the point like making maths more interactive, statistics more interactive. So yeah, so for tutorials to like be more, active, people need to have an idea about what they're doing in tutorials, right? So they usually do not do their homework before because they're struggling with core concepts or not. So having at least one group study session, at least like, session at least like once a week. But I'll book the room in advance so the people who are having these problems, they can just come together, interchange ideas. That's how you learn, right? Like always exchange your ideas. If you're a mathematics and statistics student, yeah, you got to know people and have an insight as to how they're doing math. So yeah, after doing that, they can like approach the tutorials with more confidence and there'll be greater turn up. So, yep. Any more questions, guys?
Was there another question? Emma?
So the question was just about tutorial turnout being low, and I was just wondering if tutorial turnout is low, why do you think people are going to be more keen to show up to study sessions if they're not going to show up to compulsory tutorials?
Yeah, you got a point there, obviously, because that's what I said, I'll try to make it more interactive, right? Maybe have like a costume-based group study sessions, like dress up as, like, I don't know, like to make it more creative. Like, obviously, it's not going to be, and people are not just going to be like, coming here to study. They're going to here to like socialize, get to know each other. So like, and I'll be there most of the time. So I'll give them some motivational talk, maybe get some, like some motivational videos to play down, and I have a lot of motivational videos during the gym session, so I can just play it for them and tell them, you gotta show up, guys, come on, let's do it, come on. Do it for the team, come on, like, there you go.
Imagine like I, the tiger, play in the background. Okay, any more questions? Okay, well done, thank you.
Cheers.
Next up, we've got School of Physics and Astronomy representative Darius.
Oh, hey guys, I'm Darius. I have no idea how many people from physics are here, so I won't keep you too long. So I'm currently a second-year physics and computing science student. I've been a class rep for first level maths, and now I am a class rep for physics too. So my main issue this year especially has been lab equipment, and that's probably what I'm going to try and focus on the most. So for anyone unaware, the equipment we're using is pretty old, and at least in this semester I've wasted probably a total of about 7 hours because of broken equipment. And that's not very good for labs that last 6 hours in total, and for some of the experiments you do need all those 6 hours. So that's my main issue. Also got a couple of other minor points. The feedback system in the physics department has been getting better, but it's still not quite up there. There are some problems with the lecture structure, especially when you're coming from first to second year. A lot of content gets repeated for no apparent reason. Yeah, so also some minor stuff like possibly improving the common room space. It's not too bad, but it could be a bit more cozy. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Like, there's a pretty big issue, so I'm not trying to spread out too much. I mean, I guess one last point is lack of computing education. Like, physics is very computational intensive, especially in the later years and honors years. And you pretty much only get an intro to programming in second year and not a whole lot of at that. So I would like to get some programming in the first year as well. So that's basically my points. So yeah, questions?
Well done. Okay, questions for Darius? Stephen? Is it a scenario-based question? Please say it is. No.
Please no.
So, theoretically speaking, if you were elected, how would you go about getting the extra funding to fix the broken equipment?
So yeah, that is a very obvious question. And in the past, the astronomy students have been complaining about the fact that the shuttle buses to the observatory got shut down. And after that, the answer to why we can't bring it back has always been because we don't have the money. So yes, this will almost definitely be an issue. So I've got a couple ideas. One of them is the fact that a lot of it isn't that the equipment is totally broken. It's just that the calibration has been totally messed up for some reason before the labs. Now, this might be partly due to the students messing up themselves, but that issue could just be solved by spending more lab time, more tech time in between the labs, making sure all the calibration is mostly correct. And this could be done not just by the actual lab techs, but possibly student volunteers. Since, we're already doing that. Some of the demonstrators are already fourth-year physics students, so I don't see why they couldn't do some kind of calibration stuff in between as well.
Any other questions from current physics and astronomy rep, Bethan?
That squeeze.
Is that right?
No. What would your approach be to the lack of engagement, specifically from students within the School of Physics and Astronomy?
Yeah, so I was thinking about stealing one idea from the computing science department, which some of the lecturers use in first year at least. Which is instead of having these massive feedback surveys after a module is ended, which nobody does, especially in second year, like the current one has got like 15% engagement. So basically, you use Yackers, the class response system, to have live feedback during lectures. So you would get feedback during the lecture, after the lecture, and that is a lot less effort than actually filling out a survey. So you get probably a lot more responses since it was pretty successful in computing science. And B, you would get the time to actually change things on the fly during the module and not just after for the next year. Yeah.
Fab. Any other questions? I can see some temptation from Patrick. Are you going to ask a question? No. Okay, I'll do a scenario-based question. So, you want to increase the usage of lecture recording in your school, and you compile a report asking students what they think about lecture recording and looking at best practice in other schools, and take it to your school and they say they're not going to do it. What do you do?
Well, I cry for a bit first. Yeah, so yes, this has been, for some reason, the physics department has been the most resistant of pretty much any school that I'm aware of to lecture recording, and I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. I'm aware of some arguments that have leaked down, but they, to be honest, don't seem very strong to me. And I'm afraid that this resistance is partly due to the personalities involved. So, I would just keep on pushing on, and as much diplomacy as I could. Yeah.
Tough one.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great in physics.
Okay, thank you very. Oh, we got another question from Vicky. Right, Patricia, where is she? Oh, she passed it along.
No, my question is just regarding the use of Yackers. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've not had any personal experience using that, but from what I can tell, from my point of view, is that not taken away from your academic learning because you're sitting in lectures, having the chance to criticise what's happening as it's going on instead of actually concentrating on what you're being taught and what the lecturers are actually trying to tell you? What is your thought on that? Is there any other way you think you could help with engagement?
Well, it's not like there's literally like a flashing light in the lecture theatre going, please respond using Yackers. It's just, the way it worked in computing science was that so Yackers basically is session-based, so the lecturer would create a session, you would log on, you could join that session and leave feedback. So you could just say that, so guys, if you want to leave feedback, then join the session, like on the first slide or whatever, and then just keep on doing your lecture. Like, it certainly I don't think it took away much academically from computing science lectures, at least not any more than Facebook does. I'm pretty sure more people have wasted time on Facebook than on Yackers, especially since Yackers crashes half the time. But yeah. I didn't really foresee that being a huge problem.
Fab, thank you, Darius. Well done. Next up we have School of Social and Political Sciences reps, Patrick Orson and Rebecca Coleman-Bennett. Who wants to go first? Thank you. After you, no, after you. Go, off you go.
I was like, trust the political science school to be elected, like contested. Hi, my name's Rebecca. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Essex. I'm a second-year politics student. I also do economic and social history. So the policies I'll be focusing on, firstly, I want to try and make sure everyone is guaranteed a meeting with their advisor, like in other schools. I think this is really important, especially coming into first year, and then when you're applying to honours, because I think we need to better support students, make sure the transition is smooth at these points, and allow them to be fully informed in their areas like electives and their joint degrees. I also want to support the SRC's lecture recording campaign because I know I've benefited massively from it being introduced in politics, and I think every subject in the school should be able to have the chance to do so as well. I also talked to some honours students, and they particularly mentioned that they wanted research methods, or they wished that research methods was introduced earlier in the degree to help them do their dissertation. So I'd like to work with staff to kind of integrate research methods into the course, maybe as a project in tutorials and stuff. I've not been a class rep, but I'm not too much of a fresh face. I helped organise and lead Vince Cable's Rector campaign last year, which I think I can transfer a lot of skills from this role into this one. I can confidently and enthusiastically represent you, having gained a lot of insight in that process to the university bodies like the SRC. I think this also demonstrates that I'm willing to give up a lot of time and try and improve the student experience, and I certainly took quite a risk in doing so. To help me do this, I would also like to put a suggestion box in the Adam Smith Common Room so I can be accessible all year round. So yeah, thank you. I'll give it to Patrick.
All right, I'm Patrick. I'm also 20 years old. I'm first-year politics and sociology student, and I'm from Switzerland. Now, as to what I am going to do, there's several points stated in my manifesto, as in everyone's. I want to focus on a few things. First of all, if any of you did read my manifesto, yes, I was in the army. No, I am not a Tory. That has led to confusion in the past. As I mentioned balance difficulty in courses. In retrospect, I say I phrased that quite badly. What has been mentioned by previous or by other candidates, it's mostly about feedback and participation grades, because from what I have seen, a lot of people were not happy with their participation grades because they were not told why they got this grade or that grade. Also, LECREC campaign, Hannah's Child. It has been a great success. It has improved a lot of things. Still, some courses don't record their lectures for no obvious reason. On Tuesdays, I have a sociology lecture at 12 in Butte Hall, now in Hunters Hall. It's not recorded. Then at 1, I have politics lecture in the same room, and it is recorded. Yeah, for no particular reason. I would like to formalize class rep selection because, for example, in politics, I volunteered to be class rep. In tutorial, I was never told if I am a class rep. After a few weeks, I just figured, probably not. And we were never told who our class reps are. Different courses seem to handle it very differently. From the 3 courses that I take, 2 of which are social and political sciences, none of these actually had democratically elected class reps, which I think is important so that students know who their class reps are and so that everyone has an equal chance of becoming class rep.
Thank you. Have we got any questions for both candidates? Then we'll take individual questions. Both candidates, so we'll start over. Where is Pritesh? Oh, do you want to go to Marco and then
Oh, shit. All right. I didn't know you were behind me. I have one question for each one of them. So, Rebecca, how do you, about your thing about research and method, how do you go do that? Because I've done quantitative and qualitative both courses, and they were held. So, there's no chance I could do what I did in the first year and then have that as well. So, how are you gonna bring that in?
Do you want to explain a little bit about what this is for those who aren't in the school?
So qualitative and quantitative research, I don't remember what I did, of course. So basically it's just teach you how to research, and yeah, that basically for quantitative you basically have like loads of data to process, and then for qualitative you have to do a lot of interviewing with maybe a person. So like there's a lot of like your project is like quite long, so like literally took you maybe like 3-4 weeks to actually finish your project, and it takes like that's the entire course. So like if I did my like all 3 subjects in my first year and I have that as well, like it will be the workload would be like a lot higher. So how are you going to bring that into? Yeah.
So I thought how it could be done. I think the courses in politics at the moment are really popular, so I don't want to take away from that or make it particularly harder, but I think altering the tutorials so there's a bit more like project-based, so kind of an introduction into project and research methods, not so obviously at the honours level, not so in depth, but just kind of a gentle introduction. So when it comes to 3rd year, everyone's not so completely blindsided by it suddenly this huge chunk of the course. So I think people just getting a bit more into what a huge part of the degree will be about rather than getting dropped into it. Not necessarily too complicated, just helping, that kind of stuff.
What was your question? Did you have a question for Patrick? Oh, she's left you. Oh no, sorry. I thought individual questions were later.
Oh, that's a shout. So your second point, you manifest talk about balancing level difficulty. Like, as much as love that to happen, how are you gonna implement that, and how do you implement that without while maintaining the quality of the students?
Well, of course, I can't force course conveners to suddenly adjust the difficulty level of the course. What I feel is that that each course takes a different approach, especially in first year, how to handle grades. I feel some courses say, okay, they're first year students, so we're not going to grade them as harshly as we would in 3rd year, obviously. Other courses are more like, nah, it's just first year. We expect more or less the same quality. We're going to give them a lower grade. It's just this. What I would do about that is obviously just talk to staff, talk to conveners, talk to administrators. Are they aware, or do they do that on purpose? What are their motivations for their different gradings? Is it possible to change anything about it? There might not be. Each of them might have a very good reason, but I would like to look into that.
Leo?
Hiya. So what has happened, and I know both of you, I guess, really are in favor of clear feedback. So the feedback forms for year 1 politics, I don't know about other years, were paper and were given to us in one of the last tutorials of the semester, and we had only 5 to 10 minutes to fill them out, which in a way forced everyone to fill out feedback forms. So you have kind of more wide feedback, but then as well was very limited in time and as to what you were able to put in there because, well, you only have a few minutes to fill it out. So what do you think, how you can solve that, or what would you do to fix that? Both of you, by the way.
I think it might be better to have everyone fill it out quickly rather than put it online and have a quarter or a third of the responses. But what could be done, which is the obvious choice, is give the students more time. But that, I assume when tutorial planning is done, they don't plan a lot of time for that. Make tutors or the people responsible for planning in each course more aware that this is important, because we certainly were told that this has a big influence on how the course might be changed, and it certainly does.
So just off the top of my head, obviously they are important. One thing I can think of is maybe handing out a paper copy in the tutorial before, at the end, and then each student takes it away, and then they are required to bring it back, which means they have obviously the whole week to fill it in, and they can look up stuff. Because I remember I had no idea who my lecturers were and stuff, so that's a bit more time and a bit more flexibility.
Any other questions? Do you want to go Claire and then Patasha? From the current social and political sciences representative.
Hiya. So As the current school rep, I've felt quite a lot of resistance from lecturers, getting them to opt into the lecture recording policy. I was just wondering if you had any creative ideas in getting them to see the benefits of lectures being recorded.
I think maybe showing them statistics where obviously like attendance doesn't go like particularly down or up depending on it. I know politics is fairly consistent, so I can only really speak from that because that's the only one I have recorded. But kind of showing that in other areas of the school where politics results are kind of improving, and maybe pointing out more of the underlying issues that might mean that people don't turn up to lectures, like mental health or family emergencies, where I think most lecturers may think it's just laziness. So kind of highlighting those underlying issues that may prevent that, and showing them that it's not necessarily a deterrent to coming to lectures.
Yeah, absolutely agree with the part that some students just can't manage to turn up to every lecture, and to highlight that, mental health issues, family emergencies, and so on and so on. Another idea is just make students aware that it can do a lot if they ask their lecturers to have the lectures recorded. Because I think a lot of students don't know that it isn't a lot of effort for a lecturer to have it recorded, especially if the system is in place.
We have a question from Twitter that I've currently lost. 1 second, bear with me. Question from Josh Horseman, who is our current social sciences convener. How would you guys approach the preservation and promotion of study space for social and political science students given the seizure of the Adam Smith Library? Seizure? That's quite extreme, doesn't it? It sounds...
Well, the thing is, we are in a transition. There's a huge construction project going on, Learning Teaching Hub, the whole Western Infirmary. We are in a bit of a unlucky time because currently a lot of things are being shut down and the new things are not in place yet. So I'm positive that in some time, it's of course very relative, late 2019, mid-2019, we'll have the Learning Teaching Hub. As for social and social sciences specifically, it's harder because the Adam Smith building is garbage, and we all know that. So I think the best thing we can do, or the only thing we can do, is wait for new spaces and hope that those are finally going to do something about this crowdy, messy university.
Yeah, I'd say obviously the Adam Smith building library closing is a massive inconvenience, but the Adam Smith building is such a big building, however kind of not nice it is. So maybe looking at gaps where tutorial rooms are vacant and advertising those as alternative study spaces. Or I know sometimes when I go into the reading room, for example, that's usually empty. So highlighting there are other places where students can go.
Patasha, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Rebecca, actually. You mentioned the thing about suggestion boxes in the Adam Smith. So last year, as one of my goals, I actually rolled out a suggestion box in the library, which is quite a busy space, but there was lack of engagement with that. So how do you propose to increase the engagement with a suggestion box in the Adam Smith Business School?
I suppose I can't really make people fill in forms, but just knowing that it is there as an avenue for people that need it, or, I plan to kind of increase visibility of myself in the common room as well. So making sure that they know I am an access point that is always there, I guess, would be just, knowing it's there. I can't really make people do stuff.
Oh my word, so many questions. We had Leo first, and then Mara, then Chloe.
All right, something that's happened now twice in a row in the 2 terms, and maybe this is something more for SSLCs, but I guess it happens generally, is that some of the essay questions are based on certain books where there's only one single copy of that book in a library that is not in the high demand collection whatsoever. For example, for my last essay, there was this one book that there was only one copy, 4 holes, and it had gone missing. So what I needed to do is I asked my sister, who's in another university, to have access to that through her library account, and then it was fully online. So that was me saved. But how do you think this can, how can I phrase this question? How can you convince lecturers to, in making the essay questions, to make sure that all the books are either available or be put on either online or in the high demand collection?
I think that's happened to me right now, actually. I definitely think that is really important. I think lecturers need to be aware that there are only so many copies, and I would ask them to only make sure that they're setting essay questions that can be found online or in the high demand section, and making sure that there are enough suggested readings that could go round more people than just, say, one key reading.
Yeah, I can imagine that a lot of lecturers will be quite adamant about you have to do research first and then you start writing, so you'll realize that this book only exists once. But yeah, absolutely, this is a classic example of lecturers just need to be made aware. It's a problem that affects all students, or definitely most students. Make lecturers aware, tell them, I've heard from several students, this course specifically, maybe even question, just so they know, okay, yeah, I see that. I think the more specific the feedback to the lecturers or conveners is, the more likely they are to do something about it.
Right. So I am a postgraduate in this school, and both of you obviously are undergraduates. This question is open to both of you. So why do you think you'll be able to represent PG students in the school, and what do you think the biggest issue currently is for PG students in the school?
Well, since the Adam Smith Library has closed down in order to create new postgraduate study spaces, I think that's a good move. I'm in favor of that. Because postgraduates, as far as I know, study space or workspace is a big issue. So I think it's important for those to be created. Other than that, how to keep up with that? Just find as many postgraduates as I can, talk to them, what are their issues? Because I don't think there's much more. I can't speak for postgraduates without knowing what their issues are.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. I would seek to try and work with postgraduates and undergraduates alike and do my best to kind of convey their views on the SRC, and definitely make sure, as they're obviously a very important part of our school because they provide so much support to undergraduates, making sure that they're definitely heard and they feel like their needs are being met.
Chloe.
Cool. So this question's for Patrick, sorry. Sorry, you might have already answered this. I didn't think you did, but I was busy taking photos. So earlier you mentioned how you want class reps to be more democratically elected. So how would you go about doing that?
I know Hannah has written some guidelines together with some other members of council, which will be given out or which have been given out as recommendations of how class reps should be chosen. I think this is definitely something that can be brought forth on the Learning and Teaching Committee, talk to lecturers and so on, and make them aware that students don't know their class reps and that that's very important. And in order for the students to know their class reps, maybe they should be democratically elected, because then each class reps will be in front of their lecture and people get to see them. So that's definitely a first step.
Okay, thank you both very much. Next up we have School of Law rep Daniel Buchan.
Hi everyone, so my name is Daniel and I'm a third-year law student running to be school rep next year. My biggest reason for running for a school rep was what I perceive to be a real lack of engagement between law students and the SRC. There's over 1,000 people in the School of Law, and yet I would wager that probably a vast majority of them probably couldn't tell you who their current SRC school rep is. Why is that a problem? I think it's a problem because it means that a vast majority of the students aren't aware of the opportunities that are available to them through the SRC, and they aren't aware of the help that can be provided to them by the SRC. So that's really my main point that I would like to address if I was to be elected as school representative. There are three other main points that I think need to be addressed. First of which would be working with teaching staff to ensure that the culture in lectures is one which encourages student engagement over all else. I feel that most people in lectures are forced into focusing on scribbling down notes for the full hour rather than being able to listen to what the lecturer is actually saying. I think this could be addressed partly through lecture recordings, but also through more detailed handouts being given to students. Second thing would be communication between different course conveners. Too often deadlines seem to fall on exactly the same week, often even exactly the same day. And I think that something like that, and also the fact that the exam timetables never seem to be particularly well thought out in terms of, for example, last year, the second year students actually had 2 compulsory exams, both in the same day. And I think things like that are very avoidable, and are something that would really encourage students to provide their best work rather than being forced into last-minute revision and such. And the final thing would be a change in the employability services offered by the Law Society. The employability services are great for people who are trying to get into the legal profession, but they're geared almost solely towards people trying to get into the legal profession, and I don't feel like they offer enough for people who want to go into, say, academic careers, or indeed to be able to use the skills from their degree in a non-legal context.
Thank you, Daniel.
So, thank you for listening.
Questions for Daniel? Hannah?
So, the School of Law actually has their own kind of law society. How will you make sure...
Law Council.
Law Council, sorry, apologies. How will you make sure that, that the bridge is gapped between, you know, the SRC and the council?
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the biggest things, and we have so many representatives in the School of Law. We have the Law Student Council, we have the Law Society representatives, and then we obviously have the SRC representatives. The SRC representative is probably the least prominent amongst those 3 things. I think engaging with the Law Society, I've been involved in the Law Society this year through one of the committees, and obviously got involved with the SRC through Freshers Help, and I've seen the great things that both of these different bodies can do for people, but I don't think there's enough interaction between, as you were saying, the reps within the School of Law and then the reps with the SRC. I think really trying to liaise as much as possible with the Law Society Committee and trying to show them that if we sort of work together a little bit, advertise what each other can do, it'll benefit students on, you know, in the long run in so many different ways.
Any other questions for Daniel? Matty at the back. Run, Pratasha, run.
That was stylish. Okay, so my question is a bit just about some of the things that you were talking about, timetabling and central timetabling, and deadlines being put on the same spot. From what I've encountered, it's a problem that's really not easy to solve, in the sense of that it's pretty ingrained. Do you have any ideas, more specific ideas of how to go about it, or is this rather a problem that you just just a problem that you identified at this phase?
It is a problem that I've identified. I think obviously you have to understand that the people who are setting the timetables possibly have their hands tied a little bit, and that clashes are inevitably going to happen at some points. But when you have things like, say for example in second year, when it comes in your first semester, 95% of the students taking the course, there are 3 subjects that they do. Why are 2 of those exams 1 hour apart within a 2-week exam schedule? You know, if it's a case of having exams on different days that are close together, sometimes that's unavoidable, but I feel like if the people who are setting the exams sort of take into account the fact that people are having to do a lot of work for each exam, and that in past years maybe the exam timetables have been a lot more forgiving, it's not really the fairest environment for students when they're having to tackle 2 huge exams in the same day. It feels like something that is difficult to get past, but surely can be avoided a little bit more than it currently is.
Any other questions for Daniel? No? Okay, thank you, Daniel. Well done. Okay, before we move on to the conveners and the welfare reps, let's have a quick 5-minute break. There is toilets on the ground floor and upstairs, vending machines for drinks. We'll come back here in 5 minutes and we'll start with undergraduate conveners. won a competition. You won a competition? I did, yeah. I won. They think I'm all called Natasha. It's tragic. I've been winning for Glasgow Film Festival. So that's good. Yeah, so I got tickets.
Hopefully fine.
Yeah, no, you're doing well. It's funny.
Is it funny?
Yeah, I'm mainly glass too funny.
I know. I'm not like been trying. I'm gonna do a funny one in a second.
Yeah. Like that's need to crack them down.
I know.
So I got my flash, and it's the first time using it, and it says it needs 4 batteries. I'm like, it's cool, I've got batteries. Put in 4 batteries, and they died like 10 minutes ago already. And I'm like, what the fuck? Luckily I packed 4 spare, but I'm like, how are they going to die so quickly? It's 4 AA batteries. Yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, Marcus was very fine. Nothing. Hopefully it won't die for
Yeah. Do you want to see?
whatever long.
What are you running for again? Sorry?
No, it's fine.
Environmental. Okay, so we've got law. Yeah, no, we've done law. That's then no. MLS, science engineering. Postgrads are like, feels like really long, but then we got through them most of them. Joe's okay for gender equality, age equality. I have to talk to you. So you are second class. Is that okay? Oh no, I'm really no. No. So look, right, so how far are we through this? I am no way. I'm not. No way. Right, so we've got 30 pages and we are on 50. So we're over halfway through. So I mean, I would love to finish, ideally, at half past 9.
I was waiting for the same way as like
maybe, well, before 10 it'll be fine. So,
I was at the one back there.
Yeah,
it was so good.
It's because it can't really get into play, but we'll try.
I think I had to first before the debate calculate that as well.
What would you like?
That workshop was really good.
It was, wasn't it? It was really interesting.
Especially like things that come up like post-school.
Do you want to play that video first?
I know.
And then you go what you want to do, and we do this.
Should I do mine first?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That section is
Yeah. It's alright. It's alright.
So the bottom filming was about it, like the subject itself was interesting. The film was
But also it's true, like they were recording the workshop for some kind of Bangladeshi debaters, and I was like, oh, okay, so now it's gonna be like the white people talking about feminism and giving them a workshop on what they have over there. And I was like, oh wait, maybe that's not the smartest way. It's not the smartest direction to go, but yeah, I just think it happens.
I like to do this stuff, but we've got like through 15.
Yeah.
15. No, we've got 14 left. No, we've not. We've not got 14. We've got 10. 10, but Joe's not here. And so we're on. We've got. Actually, go to obviously zero.
Wait, really?
So we've got arts community and MLS. So for example, I don't think we'll be doing it, and I'm kind of going to miss Oh, it's so long. It's going to be fun.
Literally not much to watch on.
No, there isn't, exactly. But I think it's really good to give everyone an opportunity to, like, speak.
Elliot's just there for the interview.
I'm glad we didn't find like a quick minute break. I'm glad we did a break. We've never really done that before. I just think it gives everyone like a minute to usually it goes on to really late. Usually we start early than half 7. Tomorrow we'll start half 6. Jesus, I really need to love that. It says 6. It says 6. I think I've sent out an email now saying half 6. I also know I know every No, it's like 6. I've got it here, so don't worry.
Facebook groups popping up that I actually saw the things.
6 p.m. Yeah.
Oh yeah, last year it was a bit messed up. Work set said something different.
Yeah, I know. It's my fault. I'm like, half 6. It's half 6. Oh dear. It'll be fun. I'll wait a few more minutes and then tell everyone to sit the hell down. Yeah. She was only here for a little while. And she's chipping up. Yeah, kind of back. Yeah. It's fine. That's the point. How long is the break for now? 5 minutes. Right, shall I go grab the troops in the corridors? Yeah. Let's get going again, everybody. Take a seat, get comfortable, please.
Hope I did an alright job.
You can tell the difference between yours and mine. Did you see when I went back? That's with that.
Yeah, did you
see? I tweeted
Actually, say no.
Marco, can you wave at those people? Come in.
Please ignore my stuff.
Next up. Can you pass me one sheet of paper, please?
Where's it gone?
I don't know.
Where's it gone?
I don't know. There. Oh, you ready to go again, Hannah? One sec. We have who's next? Okay, who's next? Right, we have undergraduate arts convener, Carrie and Vicky.
I thought we had a third person too. Oh, fair enough. Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here, although quite scary to be honest too, but I'll try to manage. So my name is Carrie, I'm running for undergrad arts convener. I moved to Glasgow from Finland and I'm on my second year of philosophy and politics now. So as I haven't been involved with the SRC before, I'd just like to start with a word of my experience. So during my time in uni, I've had a major role in organising events for Effective Altruism Glasgow and the GU Nordic Society. And I'm also one of the people who are starting up a local chapter for Open Cages, a big international animal rights organisation just now. In addition to that, I play football and compete in freestyle skiing with uni teams and try to go to philosoph and parliamentary debates as often as I can. So in a nutshell, I think this means that I got excellent skills in teamwork, organising and publicising events, and arguing for my opinions effectively, and I'd like to take those skills and use them for SSC too. So in my manifesto, I specify a couple of key things that I would work for if elected, and these also form the main motivation for me for running. So firstly, I want to take all those technologies that are already used in many subjects and make them benefit our students too. So this would basically mean pushing for more lecture recording, including audio-only recording, making similarity checkers like Erken available in all subjects, and pushing for coursework being submitted online. And I was actually quite happy to hear some of these themes and ideas from Hannah, running for humanities too. Another big objective that I wish to achieve is establishing peer support programs in appropriate schools in College of Arts. So these kind of programs already run in medicine and business schools, for example, and I would just like to work with school reps and counseling servings to also expand them to our subjects. And one final note, I've also promised to assist our students who go and study abroad in things related to University of Glasgow, so that they won't be left alone with their problems just because they're not here. And I think that's really close to 2 minutes, so I'll hand over.
Bang on. Well done.
Hiya, my name is Vicky Ferry and I'm running to be undergrad arts convener. So I'm the current undergrad arts convener, so I have a really in-depth knowledge of what the role entails and the inner workings of the SRC. During my time as convener, I've liaised with staff at the very highest levels of university and been able to form solid relationships with the heads of subjects, schools and college through attending Senate meetings, Arts Learning and Teaching Committee, College Council and Board of Studies. If elected again, I want to ensure online submission of assessments is rolled out college-wide, as quite often it's difficult for people to submit hard copies due to living far away from uni or financial restraints, which put unnecessary pressure on students at a time which is already stressful enough. I also want to make courses more interactive and using more online resources to enhance learning. As part of this, I will also fight for lecture recording within the college, as it is something which is of huge benefit to students. I also want to ensure the student voice is heard when building the new arts building, because there's no point in having a building that doesn't work for you. I want this to cater to the needs of students in every way possible. In order to do this, it's vital to have an arts convener who is involved in the process and is getting students involved as well. And this is something I'll be doing by gathering feedback and presenting it to the correct people. Although as an academic rep, my main aim is to ensure students are represented on the academic side of things. We can't have all work and no play. So I also want to organise a grad ball for those schools within the College of Arts which don't already have one. My page, my hands are shaking. All right, who don't already currently have one. As we've all worked incredibly hard for 4 years, sometimes even longer than this, so it's definitely a cause for celebration. One of the aims in the SRC strategic plan is representation and engagement, and I promise to represent you to the best of my ability and engage with students, whether that is via email or meeting in person, to address any issues, big or small, within the college. Thank you.
Questions? Chloe.
Thank you. My question is to you, Vicky. You just mentioned the grad ball, and I think that's a great idea. But how would you go about organising the committee in order to organise the event, essentially?
So some schools within the College of Arts already, and some subjects already have a grad ball. So my first step in doing that would actually be working out who already has that and who doesn't. And then after that, gauging interest, and then I would put together a committee and kind of delegate roles for doing each thing, because obviously it's not something I could do completely by myself. I'd need other help with that as well. But it's just going to be a case of engaging with students and seeing, how many people would want to attend, and kind of going from there, and then setting up committees to help with the various organisation.
How would you gather interest for the committee, and how
would you gather interest for the committee positions, and how would you go about getting students to want to be on the committee in the first place?
Mm-hmm. So I would make the positions, kind of publicise them, and maybe have a sort of application process. So submit 200 words on email why you think you're good for the role, why you want to get involved, and what maybe you want to get from it as well, and then sit down and maybe work with the VP Ed as well to see, go through the applications and see who would be the best for the roles to make sure we're getting the best people for them.
Fantastic. Question from Scott, then Emma.
Hi there, Carrie. In your manifesto, you say you'll also serve as a point of contact for arts students studying abroad. How would you go about doing that? Is that not quite a large portion of students?
Yeah, so this is actually something that I discovered when collecting names from a nomination. So I've heard quite cringe stories of people going abroad, especially language students that have to go abroad as a part of their degree, and then getting into problems while abroad, mental health problems, or just with basic health and safety or their host university. And then after they come to Uni of Glasgow, Glasgow telling them something like, you just need to hang on, or you're going to fail a year, or even fail your degree. And obviously, I can't go around the world and fly and say everyone, but I really wanted to make this a point in my manifesto that I can at least serve as a kind of point of contact and give these people the same SRC's advice that they would get in academic matters if they were in Glasgow. And in terms of physically doing that, yes, obviously that's quite a lot of people, but we do have lists of those people. I'm literally in a Moodle that has all the people who are going abroad next year, and you would just need to get up all the art students from there, have an email list, go through them, send them an email, make sure that they know that if they run into these kind of problems, they can contact me, and I'm not going to be able to, as I said, go and fly and save them, but I can at least let them know that I will be available.
Emma.
My question is also for Carrie, and I was just wondering, as you haven't had any experience with being on the SRC before, and I believe you said you hadn't been a class rep as well, but I might be wrong there. I was wondering why you've chosen to go for the perhaps more demanding position of a convener rather than a school rep?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of going for school rep, but I just observed that during the past years, none of these positions have been really hardly contested, including College of Arts convener, happily we're contesting now, right on the year that I decided to go in. But I just basically thought that I've got these ideas that I want to execute, and I asked Xavier, who's a friend of mine and in the council, whether I should go for the kind of bigger position to have more power to actually work on those ideas. And he said that, yeah, you'll definitely have more kind of chances to actually work on them. So I thought I might as well go straight into it, because that will then allow me to work on these issues for throughout the whole college and not just in a certain school.
You have one hand?
Yeah. So obviously I sit on the committee for the new Arts Project Development Board, and I found I sit on a lot of estates committees about buildings that are being built, and it is really hard to engage students in these buildings because they're still at quite a conceptual stage. But obviously over the next year that's going to change, and obviously this is a really great chance to get students involved in the buildings and involved in maybe some artsy and cultural things that could really make the building central to students and kind of engage students here and now. Do you have any ideas of how you could go about doing that, and how would you do it?
So obviously, one of the things we do is send out, your generic email to, saying, let us know your feedback and all that kind of thing. But sometimes it is hard to get that kind of engagement, like what you're saying. One thing that we could do is have a Google Doc form. I know this is something we've done for different projects within the SRC, and maybe stand out on Library Hill with it and say, oh, are you in the College of Arts? Do you have a few minutes? Because it would be quite a good way if we were doing that, maybe over a period of not weeks and months. It would be quite a good way of actually getting people to do the feedback and fill out what they're after as well, because you're actually engaging directly with the students and you're able to chat to them really informally about the different things that are happening with the building.
So yeah, engaging students in the new arts building. So yeah, obviously I'm gonna admit straight away, Vicky has a huge advantage on this, being in the committee and being part of those discussions, and I think it would be unrespectful to deny that. I think
is just basically down to the same kind of things that Wiki told, having emails and Google Docs. Maybe it's just about actually just going to lectures, spending 5 minutes telling students about what's going to happen and why they should care about that too. And also make sure that they realize that what they say that can actually change how the new building's going to be, and also make them realize how immensely important it is that we use this huge amount of money in the right way.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you very much, both well done. Next up, we have undergraduate MVLS convener Fidel.
Hi, my name is Fidel. I'm a second-year molecular cellular biology student. I'm from Lebanon, and I'm currently a class rep. And my manifesto really focuses on 2 main points. The first is representation. And I know of this issue from first-hand experience. I have never been, neither myself nor groups I've worked with have never been contacted by school reps or convener of our college. So that basically means that the rep is only representing a portion of the school. I don't think that's good enough. And the second issue is work experience. And MVLS students already get so few work experience opportunities, but then it's even worse for non-EU international students to get even a portion of what the general MVLS population gets. So that's the second issue that I will definitely be focusing on. But the third issue that came up quite recently is the lack of participation in those elections. I think the Glasgow Guardian has said that 80% of all positions are either uncontested or they do not have any nominee at all. And I think that's a huge issue that we need to be addressing in this committee, because it basically shows a decline of the importance of democracy in the SRC and Glasgow University in general. So we should be focusing on finding a solution for this issue before the next spring elections come up. Thank you.
Questions for Fidel? So we'll go with Iona and then Patrick.
Hi. So across MVLS, there's a distinct lack of tutorials. What would you do, or would you want to support the kind of increased amount of tutorials so that people can get like kind of alternative learning opportunities that aren't just someone droning at you for 2 hours about?
Can I just ask what type of tutorials you're talking about?
So if the vast majority of teaching in life sciences is either lab-based, but the majority of it is lecture-based, which isn't the most accessible way of learning for a lot of people, would you be looking to support increased amount of like tutorials, so like small group learning, kind of ideas, or interactive classes?
I think as a convener, my job is to be an amplifier of the voice of the student body. So if the student body does believe that, and within the schools, if the schools of life MVLS do believe that it is best for their students to actually create small groups to study well together, then I will definitely be supporting that, yes.
Patrick?
Since you brought up participation in the SRC elections, as The Guardian wrote as well, it's apparently a campus-wide problem. The other student bodies have the same problem. What do you think that you, as an undergraduate convener, can possibly do to counter that movement that there will be more participation?
I think, well, I mean, it's evident in just my friend group. I mean, when I came to my friends and I told them I'm running for convener, they didn't even realize what a convener is, and I had to inform them what a convener is. So I know that this council has expanded their communication with the student body, and they've tried to reach more people, but I don't think it's either not being done the right way or not enough. And I think we have to realize what exactly is the issue and then address the issue before the next spring elections, because it doesn't make sense that so many huge positions are going uncontested, including this position that I'm running for right now. I do think it would make more sense if I'm fighting for this position and asking people to vote for me because I'm more fit for this position than other contestants, than just getting it because I applied. Basically, this basically means that any other person applying for this position would get it simply because they applied first. And I don't think that makes sense. That's no longer democracy. Yeah.
Any other questions? Hannah?
So obviously you've talked a lot about representation, but we do have, you know, the upcoming elections in October. But we don't always end up getting a postgraduate NVLS convener. So if that happens again, what will you do to make sure postgrads are represented in the college as well as undergraduates?
I can see that there's a lack of school reps as well for medicine and life sciences, and I think that's quite unfortunate. I'm glad there's a veterinary medicine school rep here. I will definitely be talking to class reps within the postgraduates and talking to postgraduates directly and seeing what we can do. Because there is quite a lack of postgraduate representation, not just in conveners, even and just generally. And I think that is quite unfortunate. So I will be talking directly to them if there is no representation. And that's be the exact same thing I'll be doing with the schools. If there will be no school rep for medicine and life sciences, I will have to take on the role of the school reps for both medicine and life sciences. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, question at the front.
Hi, basically, you mentioned something about work experience and career opportunities, and I really agree with that, especially because for the first and second years, there's not that many career opportunities that are internships that are put up. They're more focused on years 3 and 4, which I don't believe. I feel like it should be earlier on that we get access to more of these opportunities. So I just wanted to ask, how are you going to go about making sure that us earlier students, younger students, get on a lot of opportunities as well, and as well as the international students, of course?
See, I don't think we can control what level that industries ask for students, second and first, but I do think that it is unfortunate that third-year international students get much less opportunities than third-year UK students or third-year EU students, and that will be my focus, because I can't really force a company to ask for first-year and second-year students, but we can make the opportunities for international students more equal. And it doesn't make sense, because international students are a huge part of the income for the university and the country even. So how I would go about doing that is various schools within the college already give fundings for all the expenses for work placements for students. So I think it will only make sense if parts of those fundings go directly to international students only. So international students are contesting for them between each other and not with other UK and EU students that already have other opportunities to actually get experience. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Next up, we have undergraduate science engineering convener Bethan Hall-Jones.
Hello, my name is Bethan. I'm the current School of Physics and Astronomy rep, and I'm running for undergrad science engineering, so I think I can make a real difference within the council. I've had a lot of experience this past year sitting on committees, including Library Committee and University Senate, and I think these will really benefit me in the role for the upcoming year. One of the big things that I think is a problem with in the College of Science Engineering is lab space, and the lack of lab space. With increasing numbers of students, there's more pressure on the current spaces we have. And in the long term, we do have the new campus redevelopment, but that's not really a short-term goal. So I'd hope to work with the exec and university staff and maybe build some temporary buildings like the modular maths building that we currently have. And other things, other things including study spaces, which obviously in exam times are real pressure, and just trying to promote the spaces that the university has already, and so students could be signposted to these spaces and not have to fight for a seat at 7 o'clock in the morning in the library. One other thing, I've talked to a lot of students in engineering who find that they struggle to access the subject-specific software within the buildings, because they're in first year, also you're only allowed to access within certain times, and a lot of students find this a bit unfair if they're trying to complete things, to not have priority to these rooms.
Okay, well done. Questions for Bethan? Yep, in the middle, Basil.
Okay, sorry.
Right. So, having spoken about personally about lab space, would you ever consider possibly allowing students who are below 4th year to get access to the engineering buildings beyond like hours? You know, because access hours are from 9 to 5. However, 4th years and 5th years get access to that outside of these hours. So, is that something you'd ever consider doing?
Yeah, so I've spoken to a lot of engineering students and people have brought this point up to me. I think you'd need to work really well with the rest of the exec and to talk to the staff and the people who manage these buildings to allow more access, because I think it is unfair that students who need the time in their labs don't get as much time as other students. Stephen?
Okay, so if one of your school reps resigns in October every year, how will you go about supporting the class reps for that school?
Yeah, so this is an ongoing issue within the SRC, not having all of the school rep positions filled. And having talked to conveners from this year and how they filled in their school rep positions, just be trying to attend, obviously not all of the meetings that a school rep should do, because primarily that's not the convener's job, but it would be to work as well as they can with that school that doesn't have a rep and to sort of fill in when they can and support those students. Darius?
So, I'm doing a joint community science and physics degree, which isn't very common in the university, and there are some definite organizational issues between the departments. So that's the broader question, but as a more specific example, you can't take theoretical physics with a joint community science degree, which is really weird, because those two would seem to go much better than experimental physics and computing science. So what would you do to make the departments actually like talk to each other at all, please?
Yeah, so communication is obviously a big thing between different departments, especially with joint honours degrees. You just have to try and facilitate any discussions with the relevant people. The point you raised, theoretical physics, is very computing, so that's quite an odd thing to me as well, as why you wouldn't be allowed to take that. But I think the first step would just be talking to people to see what kind of issues, as you've said, and then bringing this to the table with staff and having a proper discussion.
Okay, Bab. Hannah? So, I'm going to do a scenario-based question. Fun. So, obviously, as you know, the university is going to invest a lot more money in things like teaching spaces and lab spaces. And obviously, estates know that lab space is being pushed to capacity right now. How will you make sure you'll be involved in those conversations? And how will you make sure your voice is heard as a student rep in the decisions that are being made about extra lab space, like what the labs are going to look like, what they're going to be, made for?
Yeah, so I think my experience on council this year has shown that I'm not afraid to speak up and bring across my point and the opinions of fellow students when discussing things with staff. I think the conveners should be involved in all those things, and I think I would be putting myself to the next VP Ed and the exec and saying, I want to be there, I want to be involved in the discussion, and then talking to students, be like, what do you think works well in the lab? Do you think these labs are good? What would you want to see in a lab? And bringing those to the table as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, well done. Next up we have undergraduate social sciences convener Claire McCormack. Huh? Yeah, of course you can sit down. Keep it casual, Claire.
Hello, I'm Claire and I'm running to be your undergraduate social sciences convener. I first got involved with the SRC through Freshers Helping, which led me to run as a school rep for social and political sciences. In this position I've been given access to a lot of committees which give me insight into the issues and the inner workings of not just the school but the college as well. I've also spent the last 2 years on the GU Amnesty International Committee, this last year as president. This makes me no stranger to student-led campaigns and holding the university accountable to its students. And through this, I've learned how to angle for the most inclusive and accessible experience for all students, in particular non-traditional students. I'd really like to see peer support rolled out college-wide. Currently, this is just seen in Adam Smith Business School and the School of Social and Political Sciences recently. And I want to push for these services to be used more frequently, but I also want to lobby for them to be rolled out in all the other schools. I also want to be more proactive in getting lecturers to opt into the lecture recording policy. I've experienced quite a lot of resistance coming from the School of Law and Social Political Sciences, and I think this needs to be addressed. Something else that I think the business school and the law school do quite well is connecting academic departments and student societies, and I think that'd be a really good thing if we could roll that out as well amongst all the schools. I'd also like to tighten the communication along the pyramid of representation, just so that there's a lot of regular meetings with VP Education and school reps who will hopefully be meeting with their class reps quite often as well.
Fab, well done. So we've got a question from Josh. The current convener.
Hi, class. So, yeah, as obviously I've been in the role this year, and something that is very clear is that the college is quite fragmented in terms of education. School of Education, for example, is obviously in the St Andrews building off campus, and School of Law is traditionally not as engaged with the SRC either. And then you've obviously got Dumfries. And I wondered what ideas you had for bringing the college together and encouraging all these schools to engage more with the SRC. Yeah, especially because we don't have an education rep, or there's no one going for education rep or for Dumfries. So it's going to be something that's really important. And I just wondered how you plan to address that.
I think a really good idea would be to have a lot of socials. So I know the Politics Society do a social sciences ball, which sort of encaptures all of the schools in the college. I think it's really important not to just paint the whole college with a broad brush and try and approach it that way. I think it's useful to sort of look at the unique problems each school has. Yeah, that's probably what I'd do.
Any other questions for Claire? People are getting tired, eh? Well done, Claire. Thank you very much. Next, we will move on to postgraduate conveners. So we'll have postgraduate social science convener Keetong.
Hello, everyone. I'm Keton from first year PhD student in politics. So I'm running for this convener as a Chinese, which is one of the largest minority group in the university. 1/5 of the Glasgow University students are Chinese, and I think this rate is higher in School of Social Sciences, the College of Social Sciences. So I think the role of a convener is not to know every questions from every problem and also to have all the solutions, but to talk to students and have an open mind and also present their questions to the council that to get an answer together from every maybe people here that we can work together in the future. And also, I want to raise the awareness of being a student, a rep, and also a convener at school level and the college level, because I think it's very important for everyone to have their voice heard. So this election is only me as candidates remind me of an election in China, which normally we only have one candidate. Then I think here we need to have more candidates, and also I'm running with no opponent, but if there's anyone who is running against someone else, it's very important that you come across to the Chinese community, which we have a lot of us, and we are willing to vote if we do appreciate your agenda. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done. Questions for Keetong? Josh?
Hi, Keton. Yeah, my question is, are there any specific ways that you would sort of look to engage with postgrad students and make them aware of you and aware of your role, because I know that's something that can be difficult for postgrads because some of them haven't been in done their undergrad at the uni, so they don't have the knowledge of the SRC and how that works. So I'm just wondering if you had any specific ideas for how you would be a sort of a visible presence amongst your peers.
Yeah, I've noticed like in the past 4 years, there's no, in the spring election, there's even no candidate for this convener of social sciences. So I think it's important because I think then in the autumn election, there will be more candidates because there's more postgraduate taught students who is running for this position. They are doing a master's rather than they are doing a PhD. So I think to raise more awareness or to have more candidates or to spread this awareness of this existence of the council is to talk to PhD students. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm first year, so I can, and also we have many, at the college level, we have many courses across all the schools at a college level to, then I can have the chance to talk to the others. And then we can really do something. As in my manifesto that we have this travel fund for postgraduate researchers. Then if this council really achieves something for postgraduate students, then I think the power or the awareness will be much higher than today.
Thank you very much. Hannah, have you got a question?
Yeah, just this year we've been lucky to have a postgraduate convener and an undergraduate convener that have both had to work together on a number of things. Obviously, the Adam Smith Library and things like that, they've worked really hard to work together to gain a full picture of kind of the student demographic in the college. Is this something that you would continue being postgraduate convener?
Definitely, and also I think I start to have contact with my predecessor. So I think we to start to get this relay start at the very early stage, then work with school reps and also the undergraduate convener is very important for me and also for we to achieve something together.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Well done. Next up, we have postgraduate research convener Flynn Gewurz-O'Reilly.
What? I'm going to sit down to hide my notes.
Off you go.
Hi everyone.
Microphone a little bit closer, please.
Better?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Flynn. I'm a PhD statistics student and the current PGR convener. The university's huge intake of students is putting pressure on the teaching resources of the schools within the university, which leads them to rely more on PGRs to assist with teaching. And I've spoken to students who feel that their teaching workload has become too high and it's not really leaving them enough time to research. Also, the teaching work takes up more time than we're contracted for, which leads us to choice between doing work that we're not paid for or producing work of a lower standard, which kind of links back to the feedback complaints that other candidates have had. So I'm going to work to introduce measures that ensure that we're working for the number of hours we feel comfortable working for and that we're paid for all of those hours. In my campaign last autumn, I focused on policies to improve the mental health provisions for PGR students. Since then, I've been working on introducing mental health training for PGRs, and I'm expecting to have pilot sessions before the end of my current term. I'm going to continue working with the university to improve PGR welfare, especially with regards to mental health. I would also continue to work with the graduate schools to introduce electronic thesis submissions, which I promised to do in my last manifesto, and I've been talking to the graduate schools about. As PGR convener for this year, I've been allowed an active voice for PGRs on committees at the highest level of the university. I hope you will elect me so I can continue to do this for the next academic year. Any questions?
Well done. Questions for Flynn?
I'll ask one. Okay.
Concerning the specifics of trying to fit as many teaching hours in as possible, how would you fix that?
Sorry, what's the question?
Too many hours being done for teaching, specifically, from postgraduate researchers. So how would you fix that?
I think that part of the problem is that right now they sort of underestimate the amount of hours that things are going to take. So like maybe someone's going to get paid to mark 3 essays an hour or something, and actually it takes way longer to do that. So I think there needs to be some sort of system where people who are doing marking or doing running labs or preparing for tutorials sort of feedback how long it's actually taking them to do that and to prepare for that, so that the kind of schools have a better idea of how long it's actually taking people to do the work that they're paying them for.
Okay, I think there's a Twitter question.
Twitter question? Scott, you're in the room. Oh, for someone who's incredibly lazy, to Flynn, how will you engage students who join the university in October as new PhD and Masters by research students? In brackets, if at all, question mark.
Repeat it.
Huh?
Say it again.
Do I have to say it again?
Yeah.
Scott, just ask your question.
I just wanted to get you to work a little bit, Kate. Okay, so my question to you, Flynn, was obviously with new PGR students, it's quite hard to, well, I feel like they don't have that much of a welcome. It's quite hard to engage them when they join the university. Do you have any plans to change that?
So the mistake I made this year, I'd say, is I left class rep meetings up to the either the college reps or the school reps. And if next year what I do is at the start plan class rep meetings with all of the all the reps from the different colleges that are doing PGRs, and sort of use them to communicate with students, because the departments often aren't that big, and sort of within the between departments they don't talk, but within they do. So if you can talk to the class reps within the department, you get sort of feedback from the students, even the new ones.
Another question from Twitter, Flynn. Question for Flynn. How do you get your beard so beautiful?
I was born with it.
That's so weird, really? You were born with a beard?
I'm going to lower the tone slightly. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, just to ruin the fun. Obviously, you kind of touched upon there something that you would do differently if you run again. And what do you think you could have done differently in your last term, and why? What makes you the candidate to rerun again?
I mean, what I just said, I'd engage with class reps right away.
Yeah, but is there anything else?
I mean, I feel like at the start, a lot of it was sort of getting used to it, because it's a new position. It was finding out what committees I actually sit on and getting the details for those. And now I know that, so I suppose I'll start knowing that. It's not really something that I need to do more work to do, but something that's going to happen, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Flynn. Well done. Reminder to use the microphone, please.
Accessibility, yo.
Thank you, Lauren. Moving on to welfare officers. Joe is unavailable to make it, so we will move on to Age Equality Officer Elliot Napier.
Chloe, I saw your tweet saying that we had to sit somewhere specific. Is this okay? Is it for that? I will do my very best.
Off you go. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Elliot. I'm a third-year Russian language and Central and East European Studies student. I'm the current Age Equality Officer on the SRC, and I'm seeking re-election. Excuse me, re-election. I apologise if this is slightly shambolic. I've been moving house today, so I'm neither as prepared nor as clean and tidy, as well-dressed as I normally am, so please be kind to me. In terms of experience, I've been on the SRC Council for 3 terms already. I've sat on committees including what was the Student Support and Development Committee, Library Committee, University Court. I've worked with SRC colleagues on proposing and drafting the parents policy, which extends rights and support for students who have children. I was involved with the creation and the rollout of the Meet and Greet Freshers Week team that's kind of starting to make Freshers Week a bit more accessible for what we're calling non-traditional students. If you re-elect me, I want to push through the student parents policy. I want to make sure that it gets through all of the committee stages and actually comes into being a policy that we can tell students about, that they can make use of to make their lives a little bit easier. And once that's done, I also want to be here to publicise it, to make sure that everybody knows that that is a resource that's available for them. Another thing that's in my manifesto that I'll expand on slightly is signage for child-friendly spaces on campus. It's something, it sounds really dull, but it's something that's come back in feedback from students who have children, is that they don't know where they can go and when with their students, with their children. We're working on an obvious, a kind of visible logo that people will be able to spot in spaces across campus and know that they can go in there with their children. I also want to start a new sort of information campaign that will be very much targeted at mature students and student parents particularly. That's been high on feedback as well from mature students and student parents, is that they don't know where to go for support. There are a number of great initiatives around the university, both from the SRC, from the unions, but people don't know where to find them. So I'd like to bring that together into one thing and show it to everybody. And I've run out of time.
Thank you, Elliot. What do you feel? Brigitte.
Oh my God. So engagement with mature students during Freshers Week this time round wasn't exactly great. How do you propose to tackle it, and what would you bring throughout the rest of the year to kind of increase the engagement, I guess?
Cool. I guess for the rest of the room, what Pratasha is referring to is that the uptake of the meet and greet team during Freshers Week was not particularly great this year. It was down on previous years. What I think went wrong this time is that we weren't very clear about publicity for it in advance. So I think what we definitely need to do next time is make sure that it's signposted specifically to that kind of group that we call non-traditional students well in advance of Freshers Week, so that they know that Freshers Week is also relevant for them, so that they know that there are things that are available for them. And I hope that by doing that, we would be able to return to the successes of the team in previous years.
Lauren.
So the Mature Student Association has seen massive drops in their membership this year, and it kind of follows on from Pratasha's point about engagement with mature students. So mature students make up a really big proportion of the student cohort at Glasgow, and yet they're seeing their membership drop. How do you see your role working with the MSA to support what they do and to increase their reach and increase their engagement and membership?
First of all, yes, entirely excellent and relevant question. I think it's related to kind of a wider downturn in engagement kind of across campus, but it's been a particular problem for the Mature Students Association this year, I know. I think it ties in probably to the last question, actually. I would like to, this year, try and get them more directly and more formally involved in the meet and greet team during Freshers Week. Not just kind of having some MSA members on the team, but actually maybe some kind of formal role for them to be involved in that. The sort of publicity thing that I spent about 7 seconds speaking about because I ran out of time, I would definitely want to include them within that. I kind of envisage that as being potentially a website, if that's something that the SRC would let me do, that kind of has a list of the resources that are kind of relevant for that demographic, and I would love to include the MSA in that. Also, in the past, I've run sort of welfare drop-in surgeries in the MSA, which was something that I didn't do this year because previously there had been a sort of a drop-off in attendance to it. But earlier in the semester in the past, that had brought in new faces, people who didn't necessarily use their facilities, so I'd be happy to try that again and see if a bit of our publicity machine can maybe drive some people their way too.
Any other questions for Elliot? Okay, thanks very much, Elliot. Well done. Next up, we have International Students Officer Basil.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Basil. I'm a third-year engineering student, and the reason why I'm running for International Student Officer is that due to my experiences, this year, I've been more engaged within student life. I have been a freshers helper within the QM. I've been the VP of the Middle Eastern Society, as well as I have been contacted by the Internationalization Dean of the Middle East, as well as the College of Science and Engineering, to give talks to current upcoming students, as well as students from the region, to reflect on my experiences. So, such that, as well, to elaborate, instead of sitting down here and re-paraphrasing my manifesto, I would like to say some of the issues that some internationals might face. And the first thing is, I'd say, would be feedback. Currently, I've seen that there isn't any live form of feedback, and I do appreciate the SRC's efforts by, consistently making internationals aware of what's going on and what's happening. So what I wish to do is to reintroduce the symposiums that have been done during the past academic year, where it's in a form of a live feedback. They can sit down, speak with the deans, what's currently happening, what issues, what the university can provide them. Another thing that I wish to do is rebrand International Week. Currently, there might be less themed events, but I wish to push for more collaborative events such that, societies or, lesser-known societies, international, might have sort of a fair where they can attract their own culture, their own people. And then another thing that I wish to do is that I wish to encourage collaboration between campuses. For example, those who are studying abroad within a Singapore campus or China. Currently, their voices might not be heard, so I wish to sort of increase the communication. The last thing that I would also like to do and push for is collaboration between welfare officers, because I know that while you've got, the age, gender, and whatnot, most of these issues also tie in with international students. It's quite a huge body within the university, so I would encourage collaboration. Right, any questions?
Chloe. Hey Basil, so you mentioned that you said you wanted to rebrand International Week.
Yes.
So how would you go about coming up with ideas for social media in terms of rebranding it?
Well, in terms of social media, I was thinking that we could perhaps have some sort of platform or maybe a website, because I know that currently Facebook does a great job at publicizing it, and you've got other forms such as Twitter, Instagram, and whatnot, but I think that what could be done more is perhaps introduce some form of platform or some website that people could access, because I think that currently, first-year students might not know much of what's going on.
Sorry, I should just clarify. It'll be publicized via the SRC website. That's how it works. But what ideas would you have to pass on to the SRC in terms of rebranding International Week?
Oh yeah, sorry.
So you'd go on the SRC website or the SRC social media platforms. Currently, that's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So I misunderstood your question there. But currently, I wanted to reintroduce new ideas. I was thinking that perhaps by rebranding it, I would introduce things like, I'd call it like an international ball. And the idea behind this is that, instead of having a traditional ball where people would come in wearing with suits and whatnot, people would come in wearing their own cultural clothing and things like that. So I think that personally, these are sort of collaborative events between the international student bodies that can come together.
Okay.
Yep.
Maka?
Yep. So you mentioned you attended GIC, which is Glasgow International College, and for those of you who don't know, actually, your schedule is actually quite separate, quite separate from the rest of uni. So how would you kind of improve the transition from GIC to university, and also how would you encourage the students to actually join in societies? Because I attended it, I don't people who was in GIC, I don't really see them in societies at all. So how would you do it?
Absolutely. So currently, within the past 3 weeks, I've been contacted by the International Dean of College of Science and Engineering to give a talk to upcoming foundation students. And me personally being, I won't say an alumni, but a previous student, I'd say that I go on about more publicizing it, maybe perhaps send representatives from the council themselves, advertise about what the GUSRC is, what the students' bodies do, and things like that, because having spoken to some people personally within the event, they actually had no idea about what the QM is or what the GU is. So I think by sending down maybe representatives, that could help, or maybe, have some form of advertisement down at the college.
Follow-up question?
Yeah, and also you talk about, you talk about the, all right. Yeah, you talk about obviously engagement with student unions. I think one of the biggest reasons GRC students don't really familiar with SRC is that they're actually not members of it. They're not allowed to vote in there. So how would you consider maybe negotiate with the people in charge and maybe try to change that kind of situation?
Sorry, can you repeat that question again? The last part.
Okay. Yeah, would you consider? Do you hear the last bit you want to hear?
Yeah, the last bit.
Yeah, so we should consider maybe negotiate with people in charge of GRC and then maybe change the situation and allow people GRC to be members of SRC really.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I definitely encourage more advertisement about what the SRC actually does within the college.
I think he's asking about if you could work with the union so that GIC students can join because they can't currently. Is that the case?
No, when I was in
I don't think that that's the case at the moment. I know that they can become associated members of GEU, but maybe it might be that, and I think that's the same for GUSA, but it might be worth, I think maybe a question would be how would you work with the unions to make GIC students feel more of a more part of the Glasgow community?
Well, perhaps I've seen from my personal experience is that most of the events down at GIC, we had no official events down at the GEU, maybe perhaps once at the QM. So I think I'd promote maybe more events that are happening around campus because most of the events that happen within GIC happen just around the main buildings for them. So maybe perhaps that's how I'd go on about it. Maybe get into contact with the presidents of the GEU, of the QM, to perhaps bring the people from there.
Okay, Patasha?
So you mentioned the international and European symposiums in your manifesto. Mm-hmm. In comparison to the international symposium, the European symposium actually had a lack of engagement with students. So how do you propose to make this better and improve on this?
Sorry, you were saying that there was a lack of engagement?
With the European symposium in comparison to the international one. So how do you propose to make this better?
I'd start off by saying maybe perhaps publicize it better. I'd say also instead of focusing more on the European symposium, because I think at the time when there was a separate symposium for the European one and the international one, perhaps it was due to the fact that Brexit was still quite a fresh topic, so maybe it didn't get everyone involved in it. So I think that instead of having two separate symposiums, it would just have one international symposium going, or maybe once every semester.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well done. Next up, we have Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer. Clubs, Charities, Societies? Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer Struan.
Okay. Hi, I'm Struan, and I'm the current Charities, Clubs and Societies Officer, and I'm running again. So I've held this position on council for the past year and really enjoyed the challenges of the role, but also the positive impact it has on the community. Through my work on RAG, I have helped to organise large fundraisers for worthy causes, such as bringing alpacas to campus and the ongoing planning of the U of G charity auction with Cross Campus. I feel like I've been successful in the role and would like to continue the good work that has been done. If elected, I hope to work in conjunction with the welfare officers to ensure that fundraisers are organised during welfare weeks and months, potentially in collaboration with other clubs, such as our recent speed meeting event held with GU LGBTQ+ for LGBT History Month. Establish more large-scale regular events with the RAG committee to guarantee there is more engagement across campus. Revamp the RAG application process to ensure we have a committee straight after Refreshers Week to allow more fundraisers to be organised before the holidays, and also expand upon the current committee to allow more students to get involved to allow larger events to take place. Ensure there are rolling fundraisers throughout the year, for example, food and clothes collections, which could be with societies such as Red Alert, and to build on the success of our Give Blood inter-club competition by branching out. Work diligently with clubs to make clubs more inclusive and accessible, in particular to non-traditional students, which could be done with a buddy system which is used in Freshers Week, and it's also used by other clubs, but not all. So yeah, please vote for me.
Well done. Questions for Struan? Lauren? Oh, Patasha, go on whilst you're on your way.
Okay. I was just going to ask what your biggest achievement has been this year and what new ideas you will bring to the role.
So I think RAG, well, I mean, we've not had RAG Week yet, but I think that will be the biggest achievement because we've worked hard throughout the year to organise big events. I'm really happy with the Give Blood competition as it's gone. We've had like a lot of interest from clubs so far, and it's worked quite well. But I think like we've had lots of fun events with RAG, and we're hoping for a good RAG Week.
Lauren? So at the moment we sometimes struggle to involve clubs and societies in some of our kind of welfare and diversity campaigns, or there are a few clubs that kind of carry the weight. So LGBT History Month, obviously GU LGBTQ+ get really involved, but when it comes to things like Black History Month and International Week, we do struggle with involvement. How do you think you could encourage more clubs and societies to get involved to help diversify the events that we have and to show them that there's a real benefit to being involved in those things?
I think it's once like clubs become involved once, they get really involved again. So if you try like, I don't know, like we've worked with a lot of clubs. We did work with LGBT History, LGBTQ+ for that, and they're really keen to work again. And it's really, like if you get clubs involved in things like the inter-club competition and other events, then they're more likely to work with us in the future. Maybe.
Iona Denton?
Right, so this is more a question of like publicity, but it's quite difficult for students that are a lot of the time maybe experience mental illness and different disabilities and things to really engage with clubs and societies, partly because it's difficult to know what there is. I've personally found this difficult when I was trying to find what clubs and societies I could join. The SRC website actually doesn't show them all, and it doesn't really represent it in a way that really helps people properly engage with clubs, charities and societies. How would you work on that to make this more accessible to people?
Wait, like, cause, well, what do you mean? Because all the clubs that are affiliated with the SRC are on the website already, so the ones that aren't on the website aren't like official clubs or societies with the SRC.
Right. Okay, because when I was looking into this, I was looking into this for several things recently actually. There's a lot of conflicting information and it doesn't really, it's not like clear or visible or obvious, and there's so many different pathways and you're being directed to different places. Just, do you have any ideas of how you could maybe make it a bit more understandable for people that maybe don't know what's going on?
Yeah, I mean the website's definitely confusing in the way that the societies are listed in like order and stuff, but then I don't really know, it's got all the societies there on the website, right? They're just in alphabetical order.
Okay, sorry.
I don't really
thought some were
understand.
missing, but...
Flynn?
Oh. Who else?
If you had to unaffiliate one club, who would it be, and why?
We know that you're all going to say Beyonce Society.
They're not even affiliated this year.
Excuse me, why?
Beyonce Society.
They're not affiliated.
Not yet.
Massive shame. Hi, Stuart. One of the complaints I've got from societies recently... You okay, Flynn? One of the complaints I've had from societies recently is that they find it quite hard to try and do events in collaboration with other societies. There are not many opportunities to network, and they would like to see this improved. Do you have any ideas of how this could be improved?
Yeah, so like 2 years ago we had a Facebook group which had all the presidents of all the societies on it, which I think worked quite well because it then meant they were together in like an informal environment and they could just comment on that if they wanted to do stuff. So I'd like to bring that back again. That'd be good.
Question at the front, Sasha, in front of you.
Hi. Basically, it was following on from a previous question about the clubs available on the website and stuff. But I found when I was looking for societies that I could join, there's loads of them there that there was nothing on the page that itself. It basically, the profile picture, there's nothing there. You click on it, it's blank. It's a blank like website, and any link that they do have, it goes to an error page. So it's just that how would you like sort that out? So because sometimes I get a bit confused about what societies do actually exist and what societies are out of date, because sometimes it doesn't look like it's updated as much and I want to know which ones are active and are actually, yeah.
Yeah, so societies right now are asked to submit like a little description when they affiliate with a picture, but then most societies right now put more effort into like their Facebook page because that's where you get most visitors, I guess. So yeah, we could push for them harder to put more information on the website, and that would bring more people to the website to read about the clubs. But right now they care more about their Facebook page.
Oh yeah,
so that's an easier way to communicate with students.
Yeah, it's just like some of them, like I try and look for their Facebook page, but I don't know if they actually even exist anymore, like or if they've been like non-affiliated or whatever. So it's just like there's nothing there, not even like a Facebook link. So it's like, I can't find know if they exist, which is just that's the issue. Yeah. Okay.
Josh.
Hi, Struan. Yeah, just obviously being on RAG committee is a big part of the role. I know you've been on it for a couple of years. What ideas do you have for how RAG can be kind of scaled up and or improved, and to raise more funds and involve more people across campus?
So yeah, for the next year, I'd like to get the RAG application process done earlier. So either like just after Freshers Week, or potentially have like half the committee done before, like in May before uni ends, to ensure we have like fundraisers done during Freshers Week. But also like this year we only got our committee in at the end of October, which means we missed like having a fundraiser for Halloween and stuff. So it means that you'd be able to get a few fundraisers in before the end of the first semester. Because right now our first real fundraiser is the Christmas market, where people have exams, so people aren't able to give their full effort. Whereas if we started much earlier, I think we would be able to have bigger events. And then also if we had a bigger committee, it would allow us to have larger scale events done easier, if there's more people planning these events.
Scott.
Hi, Struan. On the topic of fundraisers, it can be quite hard in the university to target other demographics in the university. It tends to be that there is an active population who get involved with fundraisers, and it's quite hard to get to those people who aren't actively in the student life scene as per se. So how would you go about trying to engage the other portion of the student population that typically isn't?
I mean, I think we do have a big variety of events held throughout the year, especially holding events for specific welfare weeks and months. I think that brings a different group of people in to a lot of our events. And if we, I think it's good to do this because that means then we have our big events which are more generic. We've got a lot of people that really enjoyed the past events and are more likely to come to the main ones.
You got one? Yeah. If there's one thing
Oh, you're joking me! No.
SOS. If there's one thing that you would improve from your role from the past year, what would it be?
I think I'd work with you to have it done earlier, and then that means we can do the answer to the last question.
Time travel.
Yeah.
What is this? Any other questions for Struan? Okay, thank you, Struan. Well done. Okay. We still have two more positions to go, so bear with us and the technology. I feel like yeah. We'll fix it. Ghost, help us. Next up, we have environmental officer. So we have Ross Mowbray and Marissa Trimble, who's got a video link. So. Oh no. No.
Yeah, normally you just hit that.
Okay. No, that one should be HTML.
Right. Wait. Let's just leave this until Ross is done speaking. Oh, we actually. Well, okay. Right. Sorry about this. Right. Off you go.
Hi guys, I'm Ross and I'm a third year earth scientist. I've always had a passion for the outdoors and natural environment, about how it works and how we can conserve it. I feel that my studies in earth science have really strengthened my viewpoint for this. I'd like to use my position to do something constructive about it. I'm quite environmentally conscious about actions in my everyday life,